What makes certain stories not just endure, but thrive for millennia, echoing through cultures and, well, profoundly shaping our understanding of creation, purpose, and even human nature itself?
It's a great question.
Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating journey, a deep dive into some of the most influential ancient texts ever written.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unearth the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight embedded within these age-old accounts.
Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to becoming incredibly well informed about pivotal narratives.
Narratives that have, quite literally shaped civilizations and our understanding of the world. It's hard to overstate their impact.
And here's how we're going to navigate this fascinating landscape. We'll guide you through key passages revealing the intricate details and, maybe more importantly, the broader implications.
hmm
You'll hear about the very dawn of existence, epic floods that reset humanity, complex and often tumultuous family sagas.
Monumental laws, too, the ones that laid the groundwork for entire societies and, the dramatic rise and fall of kingdoms. It covers so much ground.
Exactly. This isn't just a recounting of events. It's about extracting what these stories mean for the human experience, both in their ancient context and, well, for us right now.
And it's really vital to be upfront about our source material for this deep dive. The texts we'll be exploring are exclusively excerpts from what many refer to as the Bible.
Right.
Specifically, we'll be drawing from foundational books like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles.
A significant chunk of material there.
It is. And our entire conversation, every insight and detail we share, will
Hmm.
be grounded only in the passages provided from these texts.
Good to clarify.
So with that clear roadmap, let's truly unpack this.
Okay, let's begin at the absolute beginning with the foundational narratives: creation, catastrophe, and the first sparks of a covenant.
Makes sense.
And what better place to start than the dawn of existence itself, where the text paints a picture of incredibly structured creation.
It's striking how immediate that sense of order is, isn't it? The narrative doesn't just say things came into being, it details a precise, almost architectural process.
Right. Like on the fourth day, for example, God sets lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth.
But it's more than just illumination. These lights are there to govern day and night and to separate light from darkness.
So establishing cosmic governance, setting boundaries and functions.
Exactly. It's an act of establishing order. What really stands out to me here is the deliberate, organized nature of this divine act, establishing purpose right from the start.
And then, on the fifth day, life itself bursts forth. The text tells us God commanded the waters to produce living creatures and birds to fly over the earth.
And again, it's not a chaotic explosion, it's specific. Great sea creatures and every kind of winged bird, all emerging according to their kind. It's like a divine categorization almost.
Yeah, a classification system built right in.
Precisely. And what's truly significant is that this act of creation is immediately followed by a blessing and a command. God blesses them and says, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth."
That phrase, be fruitful and multiply, it seems so central.
It really is. And it isn't just about reproduction necessarily. It's a divine injunction for life to flourish and expand within the established order.
Okay.
It suggests a creator who not only designs, but also empowers and intends for abundance, creating this profound relationship between the divine will and the flourishing of life.
So from this pristine harmony of creation, the narrative takes a sharp turn, doesn't it, into a profound disruption, the fall, and its surprisingly wide-ranging ramifications that echo through the rest of the text.
Yes, the consequences of disobedience in the Garden of Eden are laid out with, well, a stark clarity. For the woman, the divine declaration is specific and deeply impactful.
What does it say exactly?
"I will multiply and multiply your sorrow when you are pregnant. With pains you will bear children, and you shall long for your husband, and he shall rule over her."
Wow. That's intense.
It is. And it isn't just about physical pain. It's presented as a fundamental reordering of experience, tying sorrow to childbearing, and introducing a new dynamic of desire and authority within the marital relationship. It's a profound shift in the human condition, as described in the text.
And Adam doesn't escape either, right? The ground itself, which he was meant to tend, is cursed because of you.
That's right. He's told he will eat from it in toil all the days of your life, and it will produce thorns and thistles, a struggle for sustenance.
But the part that always sticks with me, the, chilling declaration of mortality, is By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return.
Talk about a mic drop moment. It really is. What's so powerful here is how this single act of disobedience introduces foundational concepts that become deeply woven into the human experience described in these texts.
Like suffering, labor.
Exactly. Suffering, arduous labor, the reconfiguration of gender roles, and most profoundly, our mortality. The text establishes these struggles not as inherent to existence from the start, but as direct outcomes of a breach of a divine command.
So it's presented as a foundational explanation for so much of what we recognize as universal human struggle.
Precisely that, within this narrative framework, yes.
Okay. After such a monumental disruption, the narrative shifts to an equally grand global catastrophe, the Great Flood. A world, in a sense, washed clean for a fresh start.
This epic event, as the text describes it, begins with a crucial act of divine remembrance. After the devastation, God remembers Noah and all the wild animals and all the livestock that were with him in the ark.
That act of remembering, it's significant, isn't it?
Very. It isn't just a nostalgic thought. It signals a turning point from divine judgment to a renewed focus on preservation and continuity, a shift in divine action.
And then the mechanics of the flood's end are laid out with remarkable precision. A wind is sent over the earth, causing the waters to subside.
The fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were closed, and the rain itself stopped. It's described as a precise, orderly reversal of the destructive forces unleashed.
Showing the same kind of intentionality as the creation itself, perhaps.
You could certainly read it that way, yes. The narrative tells us that after 150 days, the waters abated continually, and then a truly landmark moment.
The Ark landing.
Exactly. In the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat. This level of specific detail, a specific month and day, a precise mountain range, it grounds this immense, almost mythic event in a kind of tangible reality within the story.
And the mountaintops become visible.
Right. As the waters continue to recede, the mountaintops become visible. A slow, deliberate signaling of the gradual return to a habitable world. A true new beginning.
The significance of this story feels multifaceted. It's a powerful testament to divine judgment, yes.
Absolutely. But equally important, it's about divine remembrance and the initiation of a new beginning. It underscores the concept of preserving life through a chosen vessel.
Noah,
yes. Pointing towards a continuity of purpose, even through cataclysm. It's a profound narrative about cleansing, renewal, and the enduring nature of divine purpose, as presented in the text.
From these grand foundational narratives, we zoom in on the intricate, often dramatic, patriarchal saga stories of families, incredible journeys, and the unfolding of profound divine promises.
Right, moving from the cosmic to the human scale.
And one of the most vivid and cautionary tales is the account of Lot and the destruction of Sodom.
This narrative immediately sets up a poignant contrast between divine warning and human skepticism, a theme we see woven throughout these ancient texts, actually.
How so?
Well, Lot, having received this urgent warning about the impending destruction of the city, attempts to alert his sons-in-law. But the text adds that stark, telling detail. He seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting.
Just jesting. They thought he was joking about the city being destroyed.
Apparently so. It's a small line, but it speaks volumes about, perhaps, a human tendency to dismiss grave warnings, especially when they defy common sense or seem unbelievable. They just don't take the threat seriously.
It's almost tragically funny, isn't it? But then when dawn breaks, the urgency becomes undeniable, almost physical. The angels literally urge Lot.
They do. Arise, take your wife, your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city. They're not just giving advice, it's an imperative. Now,
and this is where the concept of divine mercy within judgments becomes so clear, right?
Crystal clear. Despite Lot's hesitation, the text explicitly states he was delaying. The angels don't abandon him to his fate. Instead, they actively intervene. The men, angels, because of the Lord's mercy toward him, seized his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters. They physically lead them safely outside the city.
Yeah, they grab them.
Yes. This specific detail of seizing their hands underscores both the dire urgency of the moment and the active, compassionate intervention described. It's a powerful depiction of how mercy can override human slowness or doubt in the face of what are otherwise dire, irreversible consequences in this story.
Okay. From the dramatic escape of Lot, the narrative frequently shifts to tracing lineages, almost like an ancient census.
Right, establishing connections and mapping the unfolding of a people's history. We get a glimpse into Abraham's wider family, specifically through his brother Nahor.
These genealogies, they can seem a bit dry
They
sometimes.
can to a modern reader, yeah,
Yeah.
but they are absolutely crucial for understanding the social fabric, the legitimacy of claims, and the historical flow of the narrative within these texts. The text names Nahor's sons, Uz, Buz, Kemuel, Cheesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel.
And it highlights Rebecca.
Yes, it highlights that Rebecca, a pivotal figure later on, is born from Bethuel. It's explicitly stated that Milcah bore these 8 sons to Nahor, clearly establishing a specific line of descent.
And it's not just the main wives, right? Nahor's concubine, Ruma, also bore children.
Correct. Teva, Gahama, Tahash, and Makkah. These details paint a picture of the complex societal norms around family structures and inheritance during that period, showing the various branches of the family tree. It's about mapping the whole extended family.
Absolutely. And after this familial expansion, the narrative provides a poignant, deeply human moment, the death of Sarah.
A very moving part. The text notes, Sarah lived 127 years. Such were the years of Sarah's life. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, which is in the valley, now Hebron, in the land of Canaan.
And Abraham mourns her.
Deeply. And Abraham came to mourn and weep for Sarah. The seemingly simple statement carries immense emotional weight, marking the passing of a foundational matriarch and Abraham's deep public grief. These careful records of genealogies and significant life events are vital for legitimizing lineage and meticulously tracking the unfolding history of this nascent people.
Speaking of complex family life, Jacob's household provides a truly fascinating and often turbulent example.
Oh, absolutely.
We get a vivid interaction involving something called mandrakes and a rather unexpected bargain between Leah and Rachel.
This scene is remarkable because it lays bare the intense emotional and cultural dynamics of a polygamous family, particularly one where fertility is absolutely central to status and, well, self-worth.
So Leah confronts Rachel.
Sharply.
Yeah.
Is it a small thing that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? These mandrakes, by the way, were believed in ancient times to aid fertility. So they're not just plants. They're symbols of hope and power in this context.
Yeah.
Rachel, in turn, agrees to a deal. Jacob would sleep with Leah that night in exchange for the mandrakes.
It's a literal bargain for intimacy, driven by this desperate desire for children.
Exactly. And the text directly links the outcome of this rather bizarre bargain to divine favor. God listened to Leah. She conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son.
And she names him Issachar.
Right, explaining, God has given me my reward because I gave my servant to my husband. It's striking how fertility and the gift of children are so directly tied to divine intervention in the narrative, even in the midst of these complex, very human machinations and negotiations.
This narrative also offers a revealing glimpse into the cultural significance of household idols, the teraphim.
Yes, Rachel cleverly takes these idols and hides them under a camel's saddle, then sits on them, claiming she cannot rise due to the manner of women, a euphemism for menstruation.
And her father, Laban, searches furiously for them, but finds nothing because of her ruse.
Correct. And then Jacob's anger, which seems to have been pent up for years, feeling exploited by Laban, finally boils over.
He confronts him.
Oh, yes. Challenges him directly.
Right.
What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? For you have searched through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? Point them out here before my relatives and before yours. Let them judge between us. He's demanding justice and public accountability.
What's so compelling here are the layers of meaning, aren't there?
Absolutely. It highlights the intricate dynamics within a polygamous family where envy, desire, and cultural beliefs are constantly at play. It shows the very real role attributed to divine intervention in matters of fertility and childbirth. And it sheds light on the cultural and legal significance of household gods and personal property.
Yeah.
It vividly demonstrates how deeply personal relationships were often intertwined with spiritual beliefs and legal rights in that ancient world as depicted.
After all that intense family drama and conflict, we arrive at a truly powerful and, I think, hopeful moment, the reconciliation of Jacob and Esau.
A really significant turning point. Estranged brothers finally meeting again after decades of fear and separation.
And Jacob, always the shrewd strategist, prepares carefully, doesn't he? Sending gifts ahead to appease Esau.
He does. When Esau eventually asks about the large camp he met, Jacob humbly explains it's to find favor in the sight of my Lord. This is Jacob actively humbling himself, acknowledging Esau's perceived status and trying to disarm any lingering animosity.
And Esau's initial response, considering their fraught history, is quite telling. He says, "I have enough, my brother. Let what you have remain yours."
Yeah, it suggests a level of contentment, perhaps a lack of material need for Jacob's gifts, but maybe also a certain emotional barrier, a reluctance to fully accept the offering, and by extension, Jacob himself.
But Jacob insists, right? That seems key.
His insistence is the key to the breakthrough, pushing past Esau's initial reluctance. He presses him, saying, "No, please, if I found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand.
And then that incredible line,
For I have seen your face," which is like seeing the face of God, "and you have accepted me." This is a profoundly powerful, almost spiritual acknowledgement of reconciliation.
likening Esau's acceptance to encountering the divine.
Exactly. He then persuades Esau to accept the gifts, stating, "God has dealt graciously with me and that I have everything." It's a remarkable transformation described here.
This passage is incredibly powerful because it depicts not just a simple family reunion, but a profound act of reconciliation, forgiveness, and the overcoming of deeply ingrained past grievances.
Yeah, it's a story about the transformation of a relationship, a transformation that Jacob explicitly attributes to divine favor. It's a truly beautiful moment of restoration in a saga often defined by strife.
From the complexities of Jacob's family, we move to one of the most epic and comprehensive narratives in these ancient texts, Joseph's tumultuous journey.
An incredible story arc.
From betrayal to immense power. It begins, rather chillingly, with stark brotherly betrayal.
It's a truly heartbreaking start to such a grand story. Joseph, seemingly innocent in his intentions, seeks his brothers and is directed to Dothan. But before he even comes near, they conspired against him to kill him.
They see him as the master of dreams.
Right, a figure of rivalry and envy, and plot to murder him and throw him into a pit. This immediately establishes themes of jealousy, malice, and the shocking disruption of family bonds, setting a very dark stage for everything that follows.
But the narrative quickly pivots to Joseph's remarkable divine insight, particularly concerning the coming famine. He interprets Pharaoh's dreams.
And offers not just an interpretation, but practical, prescient advice. Gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it.
He's basically designing a national economic policy based on a dream.
Pretty much. This food, he advises, is to be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine, so the land would not perish.
And that wisdom immediately elevates Joseph, doesn't it?
Immensely. Pharaoh is profoundly impressed by this, saying, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?"
Wow.
He goes even further, declaring, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are." This recognition propels Joseph into a position of immense power, directly because of what is perceived as divine insight and foresight. It's a classic rags-to-riches story, divinely orchestrated within the narrative.
Years later, the narrative reaches its emotional climax with the reunion and relocation of Joseph's family.
A hugely powerful moment. Joseph, now effectively the second most powerful man in Egypt, sends urgent word to his father.
Jacob.
Jacob, yes. "God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not delay." He promises to sustain them in Goshen for the remaining 5 years of famine.
And reassures them personally.
Right, with a deeply personal touch. "Your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my mouth that speaks to you." It's a powerful moment of verification and reconciliation.
It truly is. And the family migrates.
Described in meticulous detail, almost like an ancient census. Jacob and his entire household, including sons, grandsons, daughters, granddaughters, come to Egypt with their livestock and possessions from Canaan. The text even lists the names of Jacob's sons who came to Egypt, reinforcing the historical and genealogical significance of this massive migration. It shows the literal unfolding of the family as a nation, essentially.
And they are settled in Goshen, described as the best of the land.
Joseph's brothers explain to Pharaoh their need for pasture due to the severe famine in Canaan. Pharaoh responds by instructing Joseph to settle them in that prime location and even suggests appointing capable men from among them to oversee his own livestock.
That's a remarkable gesture of trust and generosity.
It really is. What's also notable here is the broader economic impact of the famine, demonstrating Joseph's incredible administrative acumen. The famine was very severe, causing Egypt and Canaan to languish under its grip.
And Joseph manages the crisis brilliantly.
He does, collecting all the silver for grain, bringing it into Pharaoh's house. When silver runs out, Egyptians come for bread, and Joseph ingeniously instructs them to bring their livestock in exchange for food.
A rapid transition from a monetary economy to a barter system driven by sheer desperation.
Exactly. This entire narrative arc for Joseph is so comprehensive and deeply thematic. It covers profound betrayal at the hands of his own family, the unwavering presence of divine providence guiding his path, remarkable wisdom in leadership during a crisis.
The harsh realities of famine and survival.
Right, for an entire region, and ultimately a powerful story of family reunion and migration that sets the stage for the next major phase of their history. It's a compelling example presented in the text of how personal adversity can be orchestrated or maybe designed to lead to positions of immense influence for a much greater collective purpose.
Now we shift to the monumental events of the Exodus and Sinai, a period defined by liberation, the establishment of foundational law, and the tangible, sometimes terrifying presence of God among the people.
A truly pivotal era in the narrative.
And a key, almost paradoxical theme in the Exodus narrative is the repeated hardening of Pharaoh's heart.
This is a truly crucial theological point within the text, and one that raises a lot of questions. Moses and Aaron perform all their wonders before Pharaoh, showcasing divine power. Yet consistently, the text explicitly states, "The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the people of Israel go out of his land."
So it's not just Pharaoh being stubborn.
Well, the text presents it as more complex than that. This repeated divine hardening isn't just a description of Pharaoh's stubbornness. It emphasizes a theological point about divine control and the unfolding of a preordained plan for liberation. It implies, within this framework, that Pharaoh's resistance was part of a larger divine design to demonstrate power and ultimately ensure the exodus, rather than simply a human failing. It adds a layer of, well, divine orchestration, perhaps even fatalism, to the narrative.
And intertwined with that liberation is the institution of the Passover, a foundational command that literally resets the identity of the Israelite people.
Indeed, the divine command establishes not just a new feast, but a new beginning, a reset of their calendar and identity. This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you.
So it's more than just a date, it's a marker of their existence as a freed people.
Exactly, marking their deliverance. And the instructions for the lamb are incredibly specific, emphasizing community and shared experience.
Right, on the 10th day of the month, each household takes a lamb or shares with a neighbor if the household is too small.
According to what each can eat. It's a detailed, communal ritual. This annual observance becomes a pivotal marker of their identity and a perpetual reminder of divine deliverance. It's a communal act that binds them together through shared memory and ritual, constantly reenacting their liberation from slavery. It's a living testament to their origins as described here.
The journey to Sinai brings with it an outpouring of detailed laws, shaping every aspect of society, from justice to purity. Let's look at the laws of justice first, including the famous eye for an eye principle.
Yeah, lex talionis. The text outlines very specific restitution for harm, aiming for proportionality rather than, say, unchecked vengeance.
How does it phrase it?
If men fight and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out and no harm follows, then he shall be surely punished. But if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe.
So it's about matching the compensation to the injury.
That's how it's often interpreted, yes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily literal physical retaliation in every case, but about a legal compensation that matches the injury inflicted, ensuring a measure of fairness in the judgment.
It's also interesting that these laws extend to the treatment of servants, which offers a fascinating, if sometimes challenging, insight into the social codes of the time.
Absolutely. If a master strikes a slave's eye and destroys it, or knocks out a slave's tooth, the text says the slave must be set free for the eye or tooth.
So a form of emancipation based on harm inflicted.
Yes. These laws highlight a system of retributive justice that aims for proportionality and also includes specific provisions for the protection and emancipation of slaves under certain, clearly defined circumstances. It paints a nuanced picture of ancient legal thought as presented here, balancing punishment with a degree of protection for the vulnerable within their societal structure.
Another crucial set of warnings revolves around idolatry and unholy alliances. This is where the covenant relationship with God really gets defined and protected.
The strict prohibition is absolutely clear and uncompromising. You shall make no covenant with them other nations or with their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you.
So it's about maintaining exclusive worship and avoiding corruption.
Exactly. A call to absolute loyalty. And the covenant at Sinai itself is a deeply symbolic and foundational event. Moses ascends to the divine presence with Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel who bow from afar.
But only Moses goes near.
Only Moses is allowed to approach the divine, and the people are explicitly told not to come up. This highlights the unique mediating role of Moses in their relationship with God as depicted.
And the people agree to the terms.
Unanimously, according to the text. After Moses relays all the divine words and all the laws, the people respond with powerful unanimity. All that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. This underscores the absolute monotheism required and the exclusive covenant relationship, a solemn promise from the people to follow God's commands implicitly.
Perhaps one of the most remarkable sections of the text from this period is the extensive detail given to the design and materials for the tabernacle.
Oh, definitely. The sacred, portable dwelling place where God's presence would reside among the people. It's almost like an architectural blueprint straight from a divine architect.
It really is. And the level of specificity is truly astounding, emphasizing the sacredness and precision demanded for this dwelling place. Every single dimension, every material.
Every detail is specified. Take the table, for example. It's made of acacia wood, quite large at 2 cubits long, a cubit being roughly the length of a forearm, so maybe 3 feet 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high.
And overlaid with pure gold.
Pure gold, complete with a gold molding around it, and even a rim, a handbreadth wide, maybe 4 inches, also with a gold molding. It even specifies 4 gold rings attached for carrying poles, also of gold overlaid acacia wood. This level of granular detail speaks volumes about its importance.
And the altar for burnt offerings is similarly precise.
5 cubits long and wide, making it a square, and 3 cubits high, with horns on its 4 corners, all covered with bronze. All its specific utensils, pots for ashes, shovels, basins, forks, fire pans, are to be made of bronze. There's even a bronze grating with 4 rings for carrying. It's a meticulous inventory.
Even the curtain separating sacred spaces has detailed specs.
Yes, 5 pillars of acacia wood covered with gold hooks, and 5 bronze bases. Then there's the ephod and breastplate, a truly elaborate and symbolic piece of priestly attire.
Describe that a bit.
Okay, the breastplate is square, double-folded, a span long and wide, a span being about 9 inches set with 4 rows of precious stones. Ruby, topaz, emerald, carbuncle, sapphire, diamond, opal, agate, amethyst, chrysolite, onyx, jasper.
12 stones.
12 stones set in gold filigree, one for each tribe, each engraved like a seal with the name of a tribe. It's a masterpiece of ancient jewelry and symbolism described here.
The sheer list of materials needed for the entire construction is vast, highlighting the immense value and craftsmanship involved.
Absolutely. Blue, purple, and scarlet yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, ram skins dyed red, goat skins acacia wood, oil for the lamp, spices for anointing oil and incense, and specific onyx stones or other gems for the ephod and breastplate. It's like a national treasury being poured into this project.
And the craftsmanship itself is highlighted, emphasizing the collective skill involved.
Every wise-hearted man among you shall come and make all that the Lord has commanded. The list of components is exhaustive. The tabernacle itself, its coverings, hooks, frames, bars, pillars, and bases, the ark and its poles, the mercy seat, and the veil. This isn't just about building, it's about skilled artisans dedicating their talents to a sacred purpose.
And it mentions where the materials came from.
It does. Men and women with willing hearts bring offerings for everything commanded for God's work, and the leaders bring the most valuable items: onyx stones, other gems, oil, and spices, showing a communal effort driven by generosity.
And Bezalel is named?
Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, is specifically named as divinely appointed to oversee this skilled work, indicating not just human talent, but divine empowerment for the task in this view. The incense altar, too, gets precise instructions. Acacia wood, 1 cubit square, 2 cubits high, with horns overlaid with pure gold and specific gold rings for carrying. Anointing oil and fragrant incense are also described as being made according to divine specification.
The sheer detail here is staggering.
It is. And it profoundly emphasizes the sacredness and precision of the instructions for creating a dwelling place for the divine presence among the people. It's a physical manifestation of their covenant and relationship, designed to perfection, according to the text.
Moving on, we delve into the intricate world of rituals, purity, and community laws, which truly form the bedrock of the Israelite identity and their relationship with God as described.
Right, the day-to-day practice of the covenant.
The sacrificial system is particularly complex and highly prescribed.
It truly is. The text provides meticulous instructions for various types of sacrifices, each with a specific purpose, for instance, with burnt offerings involving birds.
What are the instructions there?
The priest is to remove its crop with its contents and throw it beside the altar on the east side, in the place for ashes. Then he's to tear it open by its wings without separating them and burn it on the altar, over the wood on the fire, as a burnt offering, a sacrifice, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. This precise detail highlights a structured, almost sensory aspect of their worship,
And grain offerings are equally precise.
emphasizing consistency in specific components. If someone brings a grain offering, it must be fine flour poured with oil and frankincense. It's brought to the priests, who take a handful of the flour, oil, and all the frankincense and burn it on the altar as a memorial portion, also described as a pleasing aroma to the Lord.
Sin offerings seem particularly elaborate.
They are, reflecting the gravity of atonement and purification. For a bull offered as a sin offering, all its fat is removed and burned on the altar, similar to a peace offering. Crucially, the bull is then taken outside the camp and burned.
Outside the camp. Why?
It signifies a thorough removal of impurity from the community, physically and spiritually. The text also notes that all the fat from other sacrifices is removed and burned on the altar as a pleasing aroma to the Lord, suggesting the most valued part of the offering.
And there are rules for sheep, too.
Yes, if one brings a female sheep without blemish as a sin offering, they lay a hand on its head and slaughter it where the burnt offering is slaughtered. The priest takes some of its blood with his finger, puts it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pours the rest at the base of the altar.
What if someone couldn't afford a lamb?
What's compelling is that the system even accounts for those with fewer resources. If one cannot afford a lamb, they may bring 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one as a burnt offering and the other as a sin offering, and the priest will purify them.
So it's accessible.
Accessible, albeit structured. These detailed instructions for various sacrifices highlight an intense emphasis on atonement, purification, and worship through prescribed rituals, ensuring that reconciliation with the divine was always available for all members of the community according to these rules.
Beyond sacrifices, the laws of purity and impurity are incredibly detailed, governing everything from skin afflictions to bodily discharges.
Outlining what makes someone ritually clean or unclean. Yes, the diagnosis of skin afflictions, often translated as leprosy, is a prime example of this meticulous attention.
What does the instruction say?
It's incredibly precise. When a person has on the skin of his body a swelling or an eruption or a spot, and it turns into a case of leprous disease on the skin of his body, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons, the priests. The priest examines it, looking for specific indicators like white hair in the lesion, and if it appears deeper than the skin.
And if those signs are present?
If so, it is declared leprosy, and the person is declared unclean and separated from the community. This isn't just medical in our sense. It's a spiritual and communal designation that impacts daily life profoundly.
Even seemingly minor things like burn scars are subject to this intense scrutiny.
Exactly. If the priest sees that the hair in the spot is not white, and it is not deeper than the skin, and it is dim, the priest shall shut him up for 7 days. On the 7th day, if it spreads, it's considered leprosy. But if it remains the same, it's a burn inflammation, and the person is clean.
The level of observational detail is extraordinary.
It highlights the seriousness of these purity laws. And the cleansing ritual for leprosy, once diagnosed, is equally elaborate, signaling a complete restoration to the community.
What did that involve?
On the 8th day, one must bring 2 male lambs without blemish, 1 female lamb without blemish, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, an ephah being a dry measure, maybe half a bushel, and 1 log of oil. The priest brings them before the divine presence at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The male lamb for the guilt offering and the log of oil are presented, waved before the divine, and the lamb is slaughtered in the holy place.
What's truly fascinating is that even houses could be deemed unclean and require ritual purification.
Yes. For house cleansing, the priest actually releases a live bird into the open field outside the city to purify the house.
A symbolic act.
A symbolic act of carrying away the impurity. The text summarizes these comprehensive laws. This is the law for any case of leprous disease, for a scaly infection of the skin, for leprosy in clothing or a house, for a swelling or an eruption, or a spot to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean.
And it addresses bodily discharges, too.
If any man has a discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. These intricate laws underscore the deep-seated concept of ritual purity and its immense importance for the community's relationship with God, profoundly affecting every aspect of daily life and social interaction, according to this worldview.
Perhaps the most significant annual ritual, a day of national cleansing, is the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur.
This annual ritual is truly central to the community's comprehensive cleansing from sin, as described. One goat is chosen by lot for Azazel, often interpreted as for release or a specific entity, and kept alive before God to make atonement over it.
The scapegoat.
The scapegoat, exactly. It's then symbolically sent away into the wilderness for Azazel, a powerful image of bearing their collective iniquities to a desolate, uninhabited land, completely removing them from the community.
And the high priest's role on this day is absolutely critical and highly choreographed.
Very much so. Aaron brings the bull for his own sin, offering to make atonement for himself and his household. He then takes a censer full of burning coals from the altar and 2 handfuls of sweet, finely ground incense and brings it inside the veil, putting the incense on the fire before the divine presence, creating a cloud of smoke that shields him.
What's the ultimate purpose?
The profound purpose of this annual ritual is to cleanse the entire community from sin, emphasizing comprehensive forgiveness and the unique mediating role of the high priest who acts on behalf of all the people. It's presented as a national spiritual reset, ensuring the community's continued purity and relationship with God.
Beyond ritual purity, the concept of social justice is deeply woven into their legal framework, particularly with the Jubilee year and the rules of redemption for those in servitude.
Yes, the text establishes principles of compassion and equity, even for those sold into servitude due to poverty. A person sold is to be treated as a hired worker until the Jubilee year.
Not just as property.
Exactly. It explicitly states, "He shall not rule ruthlessly over him in your sight," which implies a limit to the master's authority and a degree of humane treatment prescribed by the law.
And the Jubilee year itself brings a profound and universal release, a kind of economic and social reset.
Yes. If not redeemed before, the person and their children go free in the Jubilee year, along with the return of ancestral land. It's a massive restoration.
And the reason given is foundational to their identity.
Very much so. "For they are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." This powerfully reveals principles of compassion and, crucially, property and freedom restoration that are rooted directly in their own divine liberation experience,
Reminding them of their own past as slaves.
and the importance of extending that freedom to others. It's a powerful ethical grounding for the law.
The meticulous organization of the Israelite community is further detailed through censuses and the highly specific duties assigned to the Levites, the priestly tribe.
Right, the administrative side. The text provides precise census figures for the tribes, giving a snapshot of their military strength and demographic makeup. For instance, Zebulun had 57,400 fighting men, Ephraim 40,500, and Manasseh 32,200.
All fighting men 20 years and older.
Exactly. These numbers are more than just statistics. They denote the military strength and demographic makeup of the tribes, laying the groundwork for how they might organize for conquest and settlement.
And a special provision is made for the redemption of the firstborn, a highly symbolic practice.
Yes, for the 273 firstborn Israelites who exceeded the number of Levites, a 5 shekel per person fee was to be collected. A shekel being a unit of weight, maybe 0.4 ounces of silver, with 20 gerahs as its smallest subdivision. This silver was then given to Aaron and his sons as redemption money.
How much did Moses collect?
Moses collected a total of 1,365 shekels and delivered it as commanded. This highlights the symbolic importance of the firstborn and the financial system of redemption that underpin their religious practices.
And the Levites themselves, they have specific duties.
Explicitly appointed to serve exclusively in the tabernacle, with their duties meticulously divided. The Gershonites' duties, for example, include carrying the boards, bars, pillars, and bases, all under the supervision of Aaron's son Ithamar. The Merarites also have specific components of the tabernacle to carry.
Ensuring every part was handled with care.
Precisely. What's striking about the Levites is their unique status. The text says they will not have an inheritance among the Israelites, because the Lord gives them the tithe as their inheritance for their service. They receive no land.
That's significant.
Very. It shows the meticulous organization of the Israelite community, the specific roles assigned to the Levites as custodians of the sacred, and a unique system of divine provision that ensures their sustenance through the community's tithes. It's a complete economic and religious integration, where the spiritual leaders are supported by the community in exchange for their dedicated service.
The laws even extend to deeply personal and sensitive matters, such as the trial by ordeal for a suspected case of jealousy or marital infidelity.
This ritual offers a fascinating, if unsettling glimpse into ancient legal and social practices related to marital fidelity and seeking divine judgment in a time before modern forensics.
What did it involve?
If a man suspects his wife of infidelity, the priest brings her before God. He puts holy water in an earthenware vessel and takes dust from the floor of the tabernacle, putting it into the water. This very visual and symbolic preparation.
Then the priest uncovers the woman's head and places the grain offering of jealousy in her hands, holding the water of bitterness that brings a curse.
He then administers a solemn oath, stating that if no man has lain with her, and she has not gone astray, this water will not harm her. But if she has,
Then the curse takes effect.
that's the implication within the ritual text. This reflects a society that lacked forensic evidence, relying instead on a dramatic, divinely mediated process to resolve serious marital disputes. The underlying belief presented is that God would directly intervene in human affairs to expose truth or vindicate the innocent. It's a powerful illustration of their understanding of divine justice in a societal context.
Despite all this divine provision and meticulously detailed law, human nature, and particularly discontent, is a constantly recurring theme in these narratives.
Oh, definitely.
We see this vividly in the Israelites' complaints about manna, their miraculous daily sustenance.
The text paints a very clear and frankly relatable picture of their discontent, a striking example of ingratitude, perhaps. The Israelites complain, longing for the variety of food they supposedly ate for free in Egypt: cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic.
Their lament is palpable. Now, our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes.
Even miraculous, sustained provision, delivered daily, isn't enough to satisfy their cravings in this moment. And the manna itself is described in detail, almost as if to emphasize what a persistent miracle it truly was.
What did it look like?
Like coriander seed and bdellium being a translucent yellowish resin, almost jewel-like. The people gathered it, ground it in mills, beat it in mortars, boiled it in pots, and made cakes. Its taste was like cakes baked with oil, and it fell with the dew at night. It's presented as a consistent, if perhaps monotonous wonder.
And how does Moses react?
Moses hears the people weeping, expressing their profound dissatisfaction, and God's anger burns greatly, and Moses himself is deeply displeased. This illustrates a profound theme of human ingratitude and discontent, even in the face of miraculous and sustained divine provision. It's a recurring challenge to their faith and patience throughout their wilderness journey, as told in these texts.
Another powerful moment of divine confirmation of authority, designed to quell internal grumbling, involves Aaron's budding staff.
Yes, this is a test explicitly designed to quiet the incessant grumbling of the Israelites against the appointed leadership, particularly against Aaron's priestly role. Aaron's name is written on the staff of Levi, and each tribal leader also provides a staff.
And they're placed before the ark.
Exactly. Before the Ark of the Testimony in the tent of meeting, a very public and sacred setting. And the divine promise is clear, leaving no room for doubt. The staff of the man whom I choose shall sprout. This is intended to definitively confirm who has been divinely chosen to lead and serve.
And the outcome?
Unambiguous and miraculous, according to the story. Aaron's staff is found among the staffs, having budded, blossomed, and produced almonds overnight. This serves as a clear, irrefutable divine validation of Aaron's priestly authority, putting a definitive end to the challenges against him and confirming his unique role.
The laws also delve into the nuances of vows and, perhaps surprisingly, the extent of women's autonomy, particularly for married women, reflecting a complex legal framework.
The text first states that a vow by a widow or divorced woman is binding on her. This implies a certain level of independence and direct responsibility for her promises once she is not under a husband's direct authority. An interesting note on individual accountability.
However, for a married woman, the situation is more complex, highlighting the patriarchal structure of the society as described.
Yes, if she makes a vow or binding oath in her husband's house and he hears it and says nothing, the vow stands. But if he overrules it after hearing it,
Then it's nullified.
her vows are nullified, and the text adds the Lord will forgive her. This implies divine leniency for her broken vow if it was outside her control, overruled by her husband.
So these laws reveal the legal framework concerning vows.
Particularly how a married woman's vows are tied to her husband's authority, clearly indicating a patriarchal society where the husband had significant legal power in this context. Yet, it's also important to note that there are specific provisions for annulment and forgiveness, showing a structured system for navigating these legal and social complexities while providing a degree of protection for the woman within that system.
The distribution of land and the communal military duty are also clearly laid out, particularly when the tribes of Reuben and Gad request to settle in Gilead, east of the Jordan.
Right. These tribes want to settle in Gilead because it's good, fertile land for livestock, and they have many animals. But Moses' response is a powerful assertion of communal responsibility that transcends individual tribal desires.
What does he tell them?
He commands them to first build cities for their children and folds for their sheep, ensuring their families are safe. But then they must arm themselves for battle and go across the Jordan with the other tribes, ensuring the entire promised land is conquered before they return to their inheritance. Duty first.
And their pledge is clear and solemn.
Yes, the sons of Gad and Reuben promised to do exactly as commanded, leaving their families and livestock securely in Gilead and going fully armed for war before God. They understand the collective responsibility.
This emphasizes the principle that the conquest of the Promised Land is a collective undertaking, a national mission.
Precisely. Individual tribal settlements can only happen after this shared military duty is fulfilled. It's presented as a foundational principle for national unity, demonstrating that the good of the whole precedes the immediate desires of a part, establishing their new territory as a unified effort.
This leads us to the critical concept of the holiness of the land itself, a concept that permeates the entire narrative.
Yes, it's crucial. The divine command is explicit and powerful, deeply connecting the land to God's presence. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell in the midst of the people of Israel.
So the land's sacredness is directly tied to the divine presence within it.
Making it more than just real estate in this view. There's also a warning tied to this, seen when the leaders of the families of Gilead Manasseh's grandson actually approach Moses. They express fear that their daughters might marry outside their tribe, potentially diluting their inheritance, especially since God had commanded that land be given by lot, and specifically to Salpad's daughters.
Showing how land, family, and a religious law are all intertwined.
Deeply intertwined. The land is holy because the divine presence is there, demanding ritual and moral purity from its inhabitants. Any action that might dilute the purity or ownership of the land, or violate the established tribal lines of inheritance, is seen as a direct threat to this sacred relationship and the very order God established in their understanding.
Okay, now let's move into the next major phase of these narratives.
Wow.
The conquest of Canaan and the early monarchy.
Right, a period defined by fierce warfare, the emergence of temporary leaders known as judges, and the initial attempts at establishing royal leadership.
The entry into the Promised Land is framed as a monumental challenge.
The text is utterly unambiguous about the scale of the task ahead. The Israelites are told they are about to cross the Jordan to dispossess nations greater and mightier than themselves, with great cities fortified to heaven, including the formidable Anakim.
Who are known as giants, right?
Exactly. This immediately sets a tone of overwhelming odds, making their eventual success, as described, all the more remarkable.
But crucial to their success is the unwavering divine assurance.
Absolutely. Understand, therefore, today, that he who goes over before you as a devouring fire is the Lord your God. He will destroy them and subdue them before you. This promise reframes the conquest not as a purely human endeavor, but as a divinely backed enterprise.
Not solely reliant on their own strength,
but on God's power leading them, according to the text. And significantly, the text makes it explicitly clear that this conquest is not because of Israel's inherent virtue or righteousness.
That's interesting.
Very. It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you go in to possess their land, but because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you, and to confirm the word that the Lord swore to your fathers.
So it's framed as divine judgment against the existing nations and fulfilling promises.
Exactly. Rather than a reward for Israel's own perfect behavior. In fact, they're even reminded of their own past rebellions against God from the day they left Egypt, keeping them humble within the narrative.
Within this conquest, the Levites, surprisingly, have a very specific and central role that is distinct from the other tribes.
Distinct from those engaged in direct combat, yes. The text states that God sets apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister to him, and to bless in his name to this day,
A unique spiritual and ceremonial duty.
distinguishing them from the rest of the fighting forces and from the landowning tribes. Their role is about maintaining the presence of God and the sacred order. And because of this special duty, they have no territorial inheritance like the others. The Levites have no portion or inheritance with their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance.
Complete reliance on divine provision.
And their identity as spiritual custodians rather than land-owning warriors. The text also mentions Moses' intercession during a critical moment where he stayed on the mountain for 40 days and nights, and God listened to him and did not destroy the people. This highlights the vital importance attributed to spiritual leadership and divine presence during these intense military campaigns.
Throughout this period, particularly in the book of Deuteronomy, there are repeated, strong warnings against idolatry.
Setting clear boundaries for the new nation, yes. The command is unequivocal, a stark warning to maintain religious purity. When God drives out nations, Israel is warned not to be ensnared into imitation by asking about their gods, saying, "How did these nations serve their gods that I also may do the same?"
It's about maintaining exclusive worship.
And actively avoiding the corrupting practices of the defeated peoples they encounter. And the text explicitly details what those abominations are, leaving no room for misunderstanding.
Like child sacrifice.
Exactly. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abominable thing that the Lord hates they have done for their gods, for they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods. This is depicted as utterly abhorrent. This reiterates the strict monotheism required of Israel and the absolute prohibition of practices seen as abhorrent. It's presented as a stark moral and religious contrast.
The concept of Israel as a chosen people with a distinct identity is reinforced through specific laws, including dietary restrictions and mourning practices.
You are the sons of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourselves or make any baldness on your foreheads for the dead. This immediately sets them apart from the mourning rituals of many surrounding nations.
And the reason is explicitly stated.
Yes, for you are a people holy to the Lord your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be a people for his treasured possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. This emphasizes their distinct status and identity as a consecrated, set-apart people in this view.
And a very specific dietary law follows, further marking their unique identity. Quote, "Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it on the earth like water."
This unique prohibition reinforces their identity and purity, often linked theologically to the sacredness of life itself. It's a physical marker of their distinct status and identity as a consecrated people, set apart with specific dietary and mourning practices that distinguish them from surrounding cultures, a constant reminder of their covenant.
The observance of Passover and other feasts continues to be central to their national identity and memory, even as they enter the Promised Land.
Grounding them in their shared history? Yes. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to the Lord your God, for in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. This annual observance is a fundamental anchor to their national memory.
A perpetual reenactment of their liberation.
Exactly. They are commanded to sacrifice the Passover lamb from the flock and herd at the place that the Lord will choose to make his name dwell there. And they are to eat unleavened bread with it for 7 days, the bread of affliction, because they came out of Egypt in haste, to remember the day of their exodus. It's far more than just a meal. It's a profound act of commemoration.
Justice in this emerging society is also seen in the establishment of cities of refuge.
A unique legal provision designed to prevent blood feuds, yes. These cities demonstrate a legal system that differentiates between intentional murder and accidental death, a crucial distinction often absent in ancient societies.
How did it work?
If a person goes with a neighbor into the forest to cut wood, and the axe head flies off the handle and strikes and kills the neighbor, the slayer, having committed accidental homicide, may flee to one of the designated cities of refuge and live.
To protect them from the avenger of blood.
Precisely. Typically a relative of the deceased. This is to prevent them from pursuing and killing an accidental slayer if the distance to a safe city is too great, as the slayer was not an enemy and did not act with malice. It's about protecting the innocent from immediate vengeance.
And it's forward-looking, too.
Yes, the text states that when God expands Israel's territory as promised, 3 more cities of refuge are to be added, showing a flexible and expanding legal framework. This demonstrates a nuanced legal system that provides a mechanism for justice and protection, ensuring fair judgment rather than unchecked retribution, or vengeance, quite a progressive concept for its time as presented.
Marriage and family laws also reflect specific societal norms and legal provisions of ancient Israel, sometimes revealing surprising elements of protection within a patriarchal system.
Take the laws concerning captive women in war. If a man sees a beautiful woman among captives, desires her, and wants to take her as his wife, he brings her home. But there are specific requirements for a period of transition.
What are they?
She must shave her head, pare her nails, and put off her captive's clothing. She then mourns her father and mother for a full month. Only after that may he go into her, be her husband, and she shall be his wife. This process seems to offer a period of separation from her past identity and a ritual purification before full integration into his household.
And divorce is also addressed?
Yes, indicating a legal framework for ending marriages. If she later does not please him, he may let her go wherever she wishes. But crucially, he shall not sell her for money or treat her as a slave because he's humiliated her. This offers some protection for the woman, preventing her from being sold into further servitude after the marriage ends.
The laws also protect inheritance rights, even in complex family situations.
Right. For example, if a man has two wives, one loved and one unloved, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the unloved wife, the firstborn's inheritance rights are specifically protected. This prevents favoritism towards the loved wife's children. These laws reflect specific social norms and legal provisions for marriage, divorce, and inheritance in ancient Israel, often showing a deliberate concern for justice and protection for the vulnerable within that patriarchal framework.
The command to remember Amalek serves as a perpetual command for national memory and retribution, born from a specific historical grievance.
The command is exceptionally strong and enduring. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he met you on the way and attacked all who were lagging behind you when you were tired and weary, and he did not fear God.
Seen as a cowardly, opportunistic attack.
And impious, yes. It carries a lasting impact, becoming a foundational grievance. And the obligation is equally powerful, a sacred duty passed down. When God gives rest from enemies, you shall blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget.
A command for perpetual national memory and eradication.
Yes, this historical context establishes a perpetual command for national memory and retribution against a specific enemy. It highlights that actions which defied divine will and harmed God's people, in this view, had long-term, almost eternal consequences within their historical narrative.
Gratitude and communal sharing are central to the laws of first fruits and tithes, forming an economic and social safety net for the community.
When one enters the Promised Land and takes possession, they are commanded to bring first of all the fruit of the ground in a basket to the priest, and declare that they have come into the land sworn to their fathers.
An act of acknowledging divine provision.
And fulfilling ancient promises, yes.
Yeah.
A symbolic recognition that God is the ultimate provider of the land's bounty. And the rejoicing associated with these offerings is meant to be communal, reinforcing the idea of shared prosperity. You shall rejoice in all the good that the Lord your God has given to you and to your house, you and the Levite and the sojourner who is among you.
Emphasizing inclusion and shared blessings.
Furthermore, in the third year, known as the year of tithing, when all tithes have been given to the Levite, sojourner, orphan, and widow, they may eat and be satisfied within their towns. Then one declares before God, I have removed the sacred portion from my house, and moreover, I have given it to the Levite, the sojourner, the orphan, and the widow, according to all your commandments that you have commanded me.
This profoundly emphasizes gratitude, communal sharing, and adherence to divine economic laws designed for social welfare.
Ensuring no one in the community is left behind, according to the system described.
Amidst the conquest narratives, the story of Rahab, a non-Israelite, stands out for its depiction of faith and alliance in unexpected places.
Rahab, a woman of Jericho, tells the Israelite spies, when we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no longer any spirit in any of us because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath.
A remarkable declaration of support from an outsider.
It really is.
Yeah.
A testament to the power of reputation and divine action to influence even non-Israelites. And she, in turn, asks them to swear by God that they will deal kindly with her father's house, saving her parents, siblings, and all who belong to them from death. She's negotiating for her family's survival.
And the men promise.
Our life for yours, even to death. If you do not tell this business of ours, then when the Lord gives us the land, we will deal kindly and faithfully with you. This story highlights the power of faith and recognition of God, even among non-Israelites, and the theme of salvation through alliance with God's people, regardless of ethnic origin, demonstrating a broader understanding of divine mercy within the narrative.
Another narrative that tests the boundaries of covenant and deception is the surprising story of the Gibeonites.
Yes, the Gibeonites, through cunning, present old, moldy bread and worn-out wineskins, clothes, and sandals, claiming to be from the distant land.
All to deceive the Israelites into making a treaty with them.
A deliberate act of guile, designed to look pitiable and harmless. And the text points out Israel's critical error, a moment of lapsed judgment. So the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but did not ask counsel from the mouth of the Lord,
They acted on appearance, not divine guidance.
which was their supposed custom for major decisions. Despite the deception, Joshua makes peace with them and enters into a covenant to let them live, highlighting the sacredness of sworn oaths in ancient Israelite law, even when obtained under false pretenses.
But there are consequences.
Oh, yes. Joshua makes them hewers of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord, a perpetual servitude. This narrative presents a moral dilemma where a sworn oath, even when obtained through deception, is honored, showcasing the profound sacredness of covenants, but also illustrating the cost of human error and deception.
Following the conquest, the detailed tribal divisions and settlements are meticulously recorded.
Establishing the new territorial claims and laying the groundwork for the future of the nation, yes. We get remarkably specific geographic descriptions, like Asher's territory, extending from the west to Shihor-Libnath, then turning eastward to Beth-Dagon, touching Zebulun, and the valley of Ishtael northward, and going to Beth-Emek and Neill, then to Kabul.
And so on, totaling 22 cities with their villages.
This granular detail helps to concretely define the emerging national landscape and its boundaries. And the allocation of Levitical cities is also highly detailed, given their unique landless status.
How are those divided?
The Israelites gave cities from their inheritance to the Levites as commanded. Kohathite clans, descendants of Aaron, received 13 cities from Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The rest of the Kohathites received 10 cities from Ephraim, Dan, and half Manasseh. Gershonites received 13 cities from Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and half Manasseh and Bashan, including Golan, a city of refuge.
These detailed geographic and administrative descriptions establish the territorial claims and the intricate administrative divisions of the nascent nation,
laying the meticulous groundwork for its future organization and governance, emphasizing the ordered and intentional establishment of the new societal structure.
Despite all the successes and divine provisions, there's a constant tension between the people's commitment and their tendency to stray.
A challenge powerfully highlighted during moments of covenant renewal and warning. Yes, the people declare with seeming conviction, "Far be it from us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods." They readily cite God's deliverance from Egypt and his miracles, expressing a seemingly strong commitment.
Yet Joshua's warning to them is surprisingly sobering, almost pessimistic.
It is. You cannot serve the Lord, for he is a holy God. He's a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgression or your sins. It's a stark reminder of the demands of the covenant and the seriousness of their choice.
This reveals a profound, almost realistic understanding of the difficulty of maintaining fidelity to the covenant over time.
Exactly. Acknowledging the people's inherent tendency to stray, perhaps. It's a realistic perspective on human faithfulness presented here, and a prophetic warning that despite their initial enthusiasm, the path ahead would be fraught with challenges to their loyalty.
The period of the early judges is characterized by ongoing conflicts and struggles for land.
As the Israelites attempt to fully dispossess the remaining Canaanite inhabitants, yes. Judah and his brother Simeon strike the Canaanites in Zephath, devoting it to destruction and naming it Hormah. Judah also captures key cities like Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron with their territories, shows some significant early territorial gains.
However, the text explicitly notes a significant challenge. Judah takes possession of the hill country, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the plain because they had chariots of iron.
This highlights the challenge posed by superior technology, these iron chariots, to their conquest, demonstrating that divine aid, in this narrative, didn't negate all military obstacles. Yet Caleb, a faithful figure from the previous generation, is specifically rewarded.
He gets Hebron.
Hebron is given to him, as Moses had said, and he successfully drives out the formidable 3 sons of Anak. Another striking example of raw justice from this period is Gideon's vengeance against the Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna.
What does he do?
He pursues them relentlessly and kills them himself, also taking the ornaments from their camels' necks as spoils. He initially commands his firstborn son, Jether, to kill them, but the boy is afraid, so Gideon executes them himself. This segment illustrates the ongoing, often brutal struggles for land, the challenges posed by technology, and the raw, unpolished nature of justice and leadership during the period of the Judges.
Samson's miraculous birth marks another compelling instance of divine intervention in seemingly impossible situations.
Setting the stage for a unique figure, yes. The narrative begins with Israel's recurring pattern of disobedience. They again do what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and as a consequence, God gives them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. This sets the stage for a dire need for a deliverer.
And then the angel appears.
To Manoah's barren wife, delivering the surprising news that she will conceive and bear a son. A classic narrative motif in these texts, highlighting divine intervention in barrenness as a sign of special purpose. And specific instructions are given that will define this child's life.
The Nazirite vow.
Exactly. She is commanded not to drink wine or strong drink or eat anything unclean, because the child will be a Nazirite from birth, and no razor is to come upon his head. This highlights a special divine purpose and dedication for individuals, even from birth, and how divine intervention can alter seemingly impossible situations to fulfill a greater plan in this case, to begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines.
The Danite migration provides a glimpse into tribal expansion and conquest, but it also, rather starkly, reveals the persistent challenges of maintaining religious purity.
600 armed men from the tribe of Dan, from Zorah and Eshtel, are sent to spy out a land for settlement. They discover a carefree people in Lash, living securely with no lack of anything in the land, an appealing opportunity.
The Danites indeed conquer Laish and rename it Dan. However, a concerning detail is explicitly included.
They take the ephod, teraphim, carved image, and metal image from Micah's house. This action strongly suggests a continuation of idolatrous practices even within Israel, despite the earlier prohibitions. It's a stark contrast to the divine laws they were meant to uphold.
So, this narrative portrays tribal expansion and successful conquest, but also highlights the persistent challenges of maintaining religious purity.
Showing a tension between military success and spiritual integrity within the Israelite community.
Perhaps one of the most horrific and morally jarring stories in the entire collection, illustrating profound moral decay and devastating internal conflict, is that of the Levite and his concubine.
It's a truly terrible and shocking incident that exposes the underbelly of their society as depicted. A Levite and his concubine journey to Gibeah of Benjamin. They sit in the town square, but to their dismay, no one invites them in for the night.
A blatant disregard for the sacred custom of hospitality.
Exactly. The outcome is chilling and barbaric. The man's concubine is brought out to a mob who abuse her all night until morning. She falls at the door of the house where her master is staying, lying there dead until morning. Her master finds her lifeless. This act of extreme violence and depravity sparks a devastating intertribal war.
Against the tribe of Benjamin.
Yes, the Israelites demand that the worthless fellows in Gibeah be handed over for punishment, but the Benjaminites refuse to comply, defending the perpetrators a profound moral failure described on their part. This refusal leads to a devastating conflict.
And the Benjaminites are nearly wiped out.
Almost. They are eventually defeated, with 25,000 swordsmen falling that day, though a remnant of 600 flee to the Rock of Rimmon, where they remain for 4 months. The Israelites then return and destroy the remaining Benjamite cities and people. This brutal story illustrates the profound moral decay within Israel during this period of the Judges, and the devastating consequences of tribal conflict and injustice when divine law, hospitality, and basic human decency are violated, according to the narrative.
Amidst these darker narratives of conflict and moral decline, the Book of Ruth offers a beacon of loyalty, resilience, and hope.
Ultimately leading to a powerful story of redemption, yes. Ruth's unwavering commitment to Naomi, her impoverished mother-in-law, is the emotional heart of the story. Her famous declaration sets the tone.
Where you go, I will go.
And where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, as anything but death parts me from you. An extraordinary vow of devotion and self-sacrifice.
When they finally arrive, destitute, in Bethlehem, the whole town is stirred, asking, "Is this Naomi?"
And Naomi's response is laden with bitterness and lament. Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, meaning bitter, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. She feels utterly forsaken.
Yet the story subtly shifts towards hope.
Ruth, diligently gleaning in the fields, happens upon Boaz's land and returns to her mother-in-law with a significant amount of grain. Naomi, ever practical and seeing an opportunity, instructs Ruth on how to approach Boaz at the threshing floor, recognizing him as their relative who has the crucial right of redemption.
The kinsman redeemer.
Exactly. This is a powerful story of loyalty, resilience, community support, and eventual redemption, where a desperate situation is transformed into a future of hope, ultimately leading significantly to the vital lineage of King David, the future monarch.
Now we enter the era of the monarchy, a time of the establishment of kings, the building of the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, and eventually the painful period of divided houses.
A major transition.
And the iconic story of David and Goliath is a powerful starting point, representing the triumph of faith over overwhelming odds.
This encounter is set up as a classic, almost unbelievable David versus Goliath matchup. The Philistine giant challenges David, threatening to give his flesh to the birds and beasts. But David's response is the heart of the narrative.
A declaration of profound faith.
And defiance. You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. He's not just fighting Goliath, he's fighting for God's honor.
And he boldly prophesies victory,
Stating his credits clearly. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. He's making a theological statement to the world through this combat. This iconic story symbolizes a victory achieved not through physical might or conventional weaponry, but through unwavering faith and direct divine assistance. It immediately establishes David as an extraordinary figure and makes him an immediate national hero.
David's relationship with King Saul, the first king, is incredibly complex.
Marked by periods of loyalty, bitter conflict, and profound psychological torment for Saul, yes. Saul's fear and envy of David become a corrosive, recurring motif. The narrative notes that Saul gives his daughter Michal to David, but Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. But Saul was even more afraid of David. So Saul was David's enemy all his days,
Jealousy consuming a king.
turning him against his most loyal subject. Despite Saul's animosity and repeated attempts on his life, David twice spares Saul's life when he has the opportunity to kill him. After the first time, Saul actually acknowledges David's righteousness.
A brief moment of lucidity.
You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. You did not kill me when the Lord delivered me into your hand. Saul even asks who would find his enemy and let him go away safe. He then asks God to reward David for his mercy.
This demonstrates David's remarkable restraint.
His loyalty and his trust in divine judgment rather than personal vengeance. The narrative further illustrates moral contrast with the incident involving Nabal's insult and Abigail's wise intervention. David's servants approach Nabal for provisions but are rudely rebuffed. Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse?
Dismissing David as a rebel.
Essentially, Abigail, Nabal's wife, intercedes with David, preventing him from taking vengeance. After Nabal dies, David marries Abigail, acknowledging that God has returned the evil doing of Nabal on his own head and has kept back his servant from evil doing, explicitly recognizing divine retribution.
The second time David spares Saul's life is equally telling.
Reinforcing David's character, yes. David and Abishai sneak into Saul's camp while he's asleep. David finds Saul's spear and water jar by his head, an easy target. Abishai offers to kill Saul with one blow, but David again spares Saul, trusting in divine judgment. He doesn't take justice into his own hands.
And calls out Abner for failing to guard the king.
Right. Saul recognizes David's voice and acknowledges that David's life was precious to him, another fleeting moment of recognition. This saga thoroughly explores universal themes of envy, loyalty, forgiveness, the complex nature of kingship, and divine retribution, painting a deeply nuanced picture of leadership and human relationships under immense pressure.
Saul's tragic end is a stark and powerful cautionary tale.
Against disobedience and reliance on forbidden practices, culminating in his dramatic downfall, yes. Desperate before battle, Saul, despite having previously forbidden such practices, consults a medium at Endor.
An act of desperation and hypocrisy.
He even swears to her, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this," guaranteeing her safety. Samuel's spirit appears and delivers a grim, devastating prophecy that foretells Saul's immediate future. "The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. Tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me." A complete pronouncement of doom.
The impact on Saul is immediate.
Complete. He falls full length on the ground, seized with great fear because of the words of Samuel. He has no strength left. The woman and his servants urge him to eat, providing strength for his final journey. The battle unfolds as prophesied.
And the tragic culmination follows.
The Philistines find Saul, dead or dying, put his armor in their temple, fasten his head in the house of Dagon, utter humiliation. But in a final act of loyalty, the men of Jabesh-Gilead bravely retrieve the bodies of Saul and his sons, burying them and fasting.
The divine judgment on Saul is explicit.
Yes, he dies for his unfaithfulness, because he did not keep the word of the Lord and also consulted a medium for guidance and did not seek guidance from the Lord. Therefore, God put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, the son of Jesse. This narrative serves as a powerful cautionary tale, leading to a tragic downfall and the transfer of divine favor.
With Saul gone, David's ascent to kingship is clear, but his reign is far from smooth.
Filled with personal sin, political intrigue, military campaigns, and intense family drama, absolutely. David's kingship is immediately affirmed by Judah, but political division persists as Abner makes Ishbosheth, Saul's son, king over Israel, setting up a civil war.
Abner later tries to unify the kingdom.
He offers to gather all Israel to David. David allows Abner to leave in peace. Yet, tragically, Joab, David's general, murders Abner, plunging the kingdom back into conflict and forcing David to distance himself from the act.
A pivotal moment is bringing the ark to Jerusalem.
Establishing the city as a spiritual center, yes. David leads the procession, but when the oxen stumble, Uzzah reaches out to steady the ark and is instantly struck dead.
Highlighting the danger of mishandling sacred things.
Even with good intentions, David becomes both angry and afraid, asking, "How can the ark of the Lord come to me?"
Then comes the infamous episode with Bathsheba and Uriah.
A major stain on David's reign. The narrative highlights David's deception. Joab sends a messenger reporting on a battle, trying to downplay losses. But David is angry about the troops getting too close to the wall, asking pointedly about a previous incident where a commander died near a wall.
Deflecting responsibility.
It seems so. Attempting to show concern for military tactics, even as his deeper sin regarding Uriah unfolds. David's own family then becomes a source of immense challenge, particularly with Absalom's rebellion, presented as a direct consequence of David's earlier sins.
There's betrayal within his court, too.
Ziba falsely tells David that Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, remained in Jerusalem hoping to regain the kingdom. As David flees Jerusalem, Shimei, a relative of Saul, curses David and throws stones. David's counselors advise action, but David shows restraint. Ahithophel, Absalom's brilliant counselor, gives advice that isn't followed. In despair, he hangs himself.
And Absalom is killed by Joab.
Tragically, despite David's wishes to spare him. Poignantly, Absalom had even erected a pillar for himself, saying he had no son to preserve his name.
When David returns to Jerusalem,
Ahimaaz runs to tell him the news. When David crosses the Jordan, Shimei prostrates himself and begs forgiveness, which David, remarkably, grants despite Abishai's desire for vengeance, again showing mercy.
But the challenges don't end there.
No. A worthless man named Sheba calls for Israel to separate from David, sparking another rebellion. All Israel follows Sheba, but Judah remains loyal, highlighting persistent internal divisions. David confines his 10 concubines after Absalom's public defilement of them.
The text also celebrates David's mighty men,
listing his chief warriors like Jeshobeam, who fought 300 men at once, and Eliaz. Another instance involves a giant with extra fingers and toes who defied Israel, killed by David's nephew Jonathan. There's also the troubling account of Satan inciting David to number Israel, leading to divine judgment.
Finally, we see David's sophisticated military organization.
12 monthly divisions, 24,000 men each, with specific leaders listed. These accounts comprehensively show David's reign as a complex mix of divine favor, profound personal sin, political intrigue, military campaigns, and impressive administrative organization, laying crucial groundwork for his successor.
Following David, we enter the golden age of Solomon's reign.
Marked by unparalleled wisdom, immense wealth, and truly monumental building projects, especially the temple.
The construction of the temple is the defining feature.
Central to the narrative, yes. The text meticulously notes he built it for 7 years. Foundation laid in the 4th year, completed in the 11th year, 8th month. This precision underlines the immense significance.
And Solomon built his own palace, too.
A massive complex, for 13 years, even longer than the temple. Also, the impressive House of the Forest of Lebanon, 100 cubits long, 50 wide, 30 high, with 4 rows of cedar pillars, a symbol of wealth and power.
The temple's features are described in exquisite detail.
Almost poetic. Pillars with capitals shaped like lilies. The bronze sea, a massive basin, 10 cubits rim to rim, 5 high, 30 around. Under its brim are 2 rows of gourds cast with the sea itself, resting on 12 bronze oxen. Inside, 5 lampstands on the right, 5 left, pure gold, adorned with flowers, lamps, tongs of gold.
Even the small items were gold.
Dishes, snuffers, basins, trays, censers, all pure gold. As are the hinges for the doors of the inner sanctuary and the main temple doors. Not just a building, a work of art and immense wealth.
The dedication of the temple is a grand national affair.
A spectacle of worship. Solomon brings in David's consecrated items, silver, gold vessels. He gathers all the elders to bring the ark from Zion. Solomon and all Israel offer immense sacrifices, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep and goats as peace offerings.
A staggering number.
The king even consecrates the middle of the court for burnt offerings because the bronze altar was simply too small for such a vast sacrifice. Demonstrates the scale of devotion.
Solomon's famous prayer for wisdom is central too.
Highlighting his priorities, yes. He asks God for wisdom and knowledge to govern the numerous people. God grants his request, stating that because Solomon did not ask for riches, glory, or long life, but for practical wisdom, he will receive it, and also, unexpectedly, riches, possessions, and honor. Divine approval for his priorities.
And during the dedication, Solomon's prayer expresses profound theological insight.
Regarding divine indwelling, yes. Recognizing God's transcendence, he acknowledges, God will indeed dwell with man on earth. Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built.
Yet he asks for God's eyes to be open to the temple day and night, to hear the prayers made there.
Establishing it as a place of divine interaction. The dedication culminates in a celebratory feast uniting the nation, a 7-day feast, a solemn assembly on the 8th day. On the 23rd day of the 7th month, the king sends the people home, joyful and glad of heart for the prosperity that the Lord had granted to David and to Solomon and to Israel his people. Solomon successfully completes both God's house and his own. His reign is marked by wisdom, building, peace, prosperity, but hints of later compromises that lead to future trouble.
And that future trouble, unfortunately, leads directly to the divided kingdom.
And with it, the powerful voices of prophets who often stand as crucial counterpoints to the kings. We see early political alliances and conflicts emerge between these newly separated kingdoms.
Like Asa and Baasha.
A clear example. Constant tension. Baasha, king of Israel, builds Ramah to prevent access to Judah. King Asa of Judah takes all remaining silver and gold from the temple and treasuries, a desperate move, and sends it to Ben-Hadad, king of Aram and Damascus. He asks Ben-Hadad to break his treaty with Baasha, so Baasha would withdraw. A new temporary alliance bought with temple treasure.
These political maneuvers illustrate the shifting alliances and constant conflicts.
Between the divided kingdoms, yes. A period of ongoing power struggles, attempts to gain strategic advantage, and a stark contrast to the unified prosperity under Solomon. It shows the rapid instability and fragmentation.
Amidst these political machinations, the prophet Elijah emerges.
A powerful figure demonstrating incredible divine power, as seen in the remarkable story of Elijah and the widow's son.
How does that start?
With profound tragedy. The son of the widow, Elijah's hostess, falls sick and dies. The grieving widow confronts Elijah, almost blaming him. What have you against me, O man of God? Have you come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and to cause the death of my son? Seeing his presence as a catalyst for her suffering.
Elijah's response is immediate action.
Demonstrating compassion and spiritual authority. He takes the boy, carries him to his own room, lays him on his bed. He cries out to God, pleading, questioning if God intends harm, advocating for her.
And then the resurrection.
Elijah stretches himself over the child 3 times, crying out, "O Lord my God, please let this child's soul return to him." God hears Elijah's fervent prayer, and miraculously the boy's soul returns, and he revives. This powerful narrative illustrates the prophet's crucial intercessory role and demonstrates the direct divine power over life and death described here.
Another powerful prophetic confrontation involves King Ahab of Israel and Ben-Hadad, the Aramean king.
Showcasing a blend of military action and divine intervention, yes. The battle unfolds over 7 days. On the 7th, a massive blow. 100,000 Aramean foot soldiers killed. The remaining flee to Aphek, where, remarkably, a wall collapses on 27,000 more. A catastrophic defeat for the Arameans. Ben-Hadad hides in fear.
But then his servants suggest appealing for mercy.
Based on a reputation, they approach the Israelite king with sackcloth and ropes on their heads, symbols of supplication, seeking mercy for Ben-Hadad's life.
This narrative shows a fascinating blend of decisive military action and complex political maneuvering.
Highlighting the unpredictable nature of ancient warfare and leadership. where even after a crushing defeat, there's an attempt to appeal to perceived mercy.
The story of Jezebel and Naboth's vineyard stands as one of the most stark warnings about abuse of power.
In profound injustice, yes. King Ahab is depicted as deeply covetous because Naboth refuses to sell his ancestral vineyard based on law. Ahab wants it anyway.
And Jezebel orchestrates the evil.
She ridicules her husband.
Mhm.
Do you now govern Israel? I will give you the vineyard. She meticulously orchestrates a plot, writes letters in Ahab's name, seals them, sends them to the elders, arranging for false witnesses to accuse Naboth of blasphemy and treason, leading to his stoning. A terrifying display of manipulation.
This story is a potent example of abuse of power, injustice, and unchecked desire.
And a corrupt queen. A stark moral contrast to the divine laws expected of rulers, highlighting the devastating consequences of acting outside ethical bounds.
The prophet Micaiah delivers a harrowing prophecy concerning Ahab's ultimate fate.
Further emphasizing God's control and the consequences of ignoring warning. Yes. Micaiah boldly prophesies to Ahab a vision of imminent military defeat. I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains as sheep that have no shepherd, doom for Ahab's campaign.
Ahab's reaction is frustration.
And self-pity. Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? He dislikes inconvenient truths. Micaiah then describes a more profound vision of the divine counsel.
God asking who will entice Ahab to his death.
Exactly. Who will entice Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead? A spirit steps forward, offering to be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. A complex theological understanding of how divine will can unfold, even through deception, to bring about a predetermined outcome. The narrative emphasizes God's control and the king's disregard for genuine warning, leading to his downfall.
The power of the prophets continues through Elisha, Elijah's successor.
Seen in his interactions with kings Jehoram and Ahaziah, yes. King Jehoram of Israel is wounded fighting King Hazael of Aram and returns to Jezreel. Ahaziah, king of Judah, visits him, highlighting interkingdom relationships and vulnerability.
Then Elisha takes decisive action.
Indirectly. He calls one of the sons of the prophets and sends him to Ramoth-Gilead with oil to anoint Jehu king, orchestrating a transfer of power by divine decree. Elisha also performs a symbolic act with the Israelite king.
Striking the ground with arrows.
A test of obedience. He commands the king to strike. The king strikes only 3 times. The prophet is furious, saying he should have struck 5 or 6 times to completely destroy the Arameans, but now he will strike them only 3 times, emphasizing complete obedience and consequences of incomplete action.
And even a posthumous miracle.
Incredible demonstration of power. Elisha dies and is buried. Later, during a Moabite raid, a dead man is thrown into Elisha's tomb. When the man touches Elisha's bones, he miraculously comes to life. These episodes underscore the power of the prophets as divine agents, even after death.
As we move closer to the end of the northern kingdom of Israel, the reigns of kings like Menahem and Pekah illustrate the growing Assyrian threat.
And the grim consequences of persistent idolatry, yes. Menahem becomes king, rules 10 years, does evil, follows Jeroboam's sins, a pattern of rebellion.
The Assyrian threat becomes undeniable.
King Pul of Assyria invades. Menahem, desperate, gives Pul 1,000 talents of silver to secure his throne. He levies this from the wealthy men of Israel, 50 shekels each. Israel becomes a vassal state, buying temporary peace.
Later, Pekah reigns 20 years, also does evil.
Following the same path. During Pekah's reign, Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria captures many key cities in Israel: Ijon, Abel-Beth-Makkah, Genoa, Kadesh, Hazor, Gilead, Galilee, Naphtali, and carries inhabitants captive to Assyria. These accounts vividly illustrate the growing Assyrian threat and the devastating consequences of Israel's persistent idolatry, leading to deportation and loss.
In the southern kingdom of Judah, King Ahaz introduces foreign religious practices.
Brazenly altering worship in the Jerusalem temple itself, yes. Ahaz goes to Damascus, sees an altar, sends it patterned to Uriah the priest, has a replica built. Blatant disregard for exclusive worship.
Uses the new altar.
When the new foreign altar is built, the king himself sacrifices on it. He then physically moves the divinely ordained bronze altar from its sacred place, putting it on the north side of the new one, a dramatic physical and theological alteration.
And instructs the priest to use the new one for everything.
Morning and evening offerings, royal offerings, people's offerings, all on the new altar. He declares the old bronze altar is for his personal use in discerning omens. This portrays a king actively introducing foreign practices, altering prescribed worship, clear syncretism, and disobedience.
The Assyrian king's resettlement of foreign captives in Samaria after the fall of the northern kingdom also carries a distinct theological message.
About God's domain, yes. The king of Assyria brings people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, Sepharvaim, settles them in Samaria, a new, diverse population.
And because they don't worship God.
The text states, "The Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them." Stark, supernatural, divine judgment. The Assyrian king is informed the relocated people do not know the law of the God of the land, so the deity sends lions.
Illustrating the concept of a god of the land.
And divine judgment upon those who do not acknowledge him, even foreign settlers, underscoring the universal reach of God's authority in the narrative's worldview.
Amidst all this, King Hezekiah of Judah stands out as a beacon of faith.
And the narrative highlights the incredible deliverance he experiences, yes. When Sennacherib's Rabshakeh arrives to taunt Jerusalem, mocking their reliance on God, listing other gods who failed.
A moment of immense pressure and blasphemy.
Hezekiah's response is devout. Torn clothes. Seeks Isaiah. Isaiah sends word from God condemning Sennacherib's blasphemy against the Holy One of Israel. God boasts of his power, his ancient plan. He is in control.
The divine intervention is dramatic.
Decisive. That very night, the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. Unprecedented, miraculous deliverance. Sennacherib returns defeated, later assassinated by his sons, while worshiping his God.
Hezekiah also faces a personal crisis.
Falls mortally ill. Isaiah tells him to set his house in order, he's going to die. Hezekiah turns to the wall, prays earnestly, reminds God of his faithful service, weeps bitterly. A very human response.
And miraculously.
Before Isaiah leaves the palace, God tells him, "Turn back and say to Hezekiah, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears. Behold, I will heal you. On the third day you shall go up to the house of the Lord." These accounts powerfully demonstrate the power of prayer and divine intervention, reinforcing the protective aspect of God for the faithful.
In stark contrast, Manasseh's reign is characterized by profound wickedness.
Leading to irreversible consequences for Judah, yes. Manasseh leads Judah astray into deep idolatry, causing them to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the people of Israel. Surpassing the very peoples they displaced, he rebuilds forbidden altars, sets up statues, burns his own children in fire to other gods. Extreme, pervasive evil described.
The divine judgment is unequivocal.
Devastating. God speaks through prophets. Because Manasseh has committed these abominations. Therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, I am bringing it upon Jerusalem and Judah, such disaster that everyone who hears of it will tingle in both ears, a promise of catastrophic ruin. This narrative emphasizes that persistent, profound evil leads to inevitable, severe divine judgment.
The fall of Jerusalem marks the devastating culmination.
Of years of disobedience and prophetic warnings, yes, leading to the destruction of the temple and the exile of people, ending an era. The king of Babylon ruthlessly takes into exile almost all inhabitants. Leaders, warriors, 10,000 captives, craftsmen, smiths, only the poorest left. Complete societal upheaval.
The last king, Zedekiah, is a puppet king.
The king of Babylon makes Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king, changes his name to Zedekiah. He rules 11 years. Tragically, the text notes he also does what was evil, according to all that Jehoiakim had done, continuing the pattern leading to disaster. This tragic narrative marks the dramatic end of an era for Judah, the destruction of the temple, the painful exile.
Finally, we see extensive genealogies, particularly in Chronicles.
Serving a foundational purpose beyond just names, yes. The lineage from Shem, Noah's son, to Abraham, it's meticulously traced. Through Arphaxad, Salah, Eber, Peleg, Ru, Serug, Nohor, Terah, to Abraham. Then Abraham's sons, Isaac and Ishmael, establishing major branches.
And incredibly detailed lists, like Asher's descendants.
Comprehensive list of sons, grandsons, further descendants. Japhlet, Shomer, Hotham, Zophah, Jether, Ulah, all described as heads of their fathers' houses, choice mighty men of valor, chiefs of the princes. An incredibly precise record.
These genealogies are foundational.
Far more than mere lists. Foundational to establishing kinship, tribal identity, historical continuity. They legitimize claims to land, priesthood, kingship, track divine promises, provide the framework for the entire narrative of a people chosen by God, connecting their present to their ancient past, the fabric of their identity.
Wow, what an extraordinary journey. From the meticulously structured creation to the complexities of ancient family sagas, the rigorous laws laid down at Sinai,
The tumultuous period of the judges.
and the epic rise and heartbreaking fall of kings, we've covered a truly vast landscape of ancient narratives, all drawn directly from the biblical texts provided.
What consistently stands out, I think woven into every single story, is the recurring pattern. You see divine instruction, then human choices.
And the inevitable consequences that follow, whether it's profound blessing or severe judgment.
Exactly. We've seen stories of unwavering faith, profound betrayal, incredible mercy, and unyielding justice, all intricately woven into the fabric of a people's history and their dynamic, often challenging relationship with God as depicted.
And why does all this matter to you, listening today, millennia later?
Well, these stories, though ancient in their setting, continue to offer profound insights into universal human nature, don't they? Grappling with timeless ethical dilemmas, the complexities of leadership.
And humanity's enduring search for meaning and purpose.
Yeah, they lay bare themes that resonate even today, inviting us to reflect on our own understanding of morality, destiny, and the forces that shape our lives.
As a final thought, maybe consider how the detailed instructions for building sacred spaces or the intricate laws governing daily life and community,
The sheer detail, yeah.
how it speaks to a deep-seated human longing for order and design, not just in the universe, but in human society itself.
That's a great point. What might these ancient narratives suggest about our universal human longing for a connection beyond the visible and the enduring transformative power of story to shape our very being and understanding of the world around us? Something to ponder.
We truly hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and left you with a richer, more nuanced understanding of these foundational texts. Join us next time for another deep dive into a new stack of sources, extracting more surprising nuggets of knowledge just for you.
Until then, keep digging.